Canada is the richest, poor, country on Earth. We sit on $45 trillion in natural wealth, yet we can't afford our own homes. Here is the secret the world doesn't want you to know: Canada's wealth isn't actually Canadian. Act 2, The Paradox of Plenty. To understand why you're paying more for gas while living on top of the world's third largest oil reserve, we have to look at the numbers. In 2024, Canada's natural resources accounted for 16% of our entire GDP. That's nearly $500 billion. But follow the money. If you look at the 10 largest mining and energy companies operating on Canadian soil, a shocking pattern emerges. Names like Vale, Glencore, and ExxonMobil, operating as Imperial Oil, dominate the landscape. They aren't just investors. They are the landlords. Imagine you own a bakery. You have the best flour in the world. But a neighbor from down the street owns your oven, your pans, and even the front door. You do all the work, but at the end of the day, he takes 90% of the bread, sells it back to you at a premium, and leaves you with the crumbs. That is the branch plant economy. And it's why, despite a record $383 billion in exports last year, the average Canadian feels like they're falling behind. Act 3, The Norway Comparison, the $1 trillion mistake. This is the part that will make your blood boil. Let's talk about Norway. In the 1970s, both Canada, specifically Alberta, and Norway discovered massive oil reserves. They had the same choice: let the corporations take the risk and the profit, or keep a piece for the people. Norway chose the people. They created a sovereign wealth fund. Today, that fund is worth over $2.2 trillion USD. Every single Norwegian citizen is, on paper, a millionaire. They have free education, world-class infrastructure, and a safety net that could survive a century-long recession. Now, look at Canada. We had the Alberta Heritage Savings Trust Fund. At one point, it was the envy of the world. But instead of letting it grow, we used it to balance budgets and fund short-term political promises. By 2026, while Norway's fund is hitting record returns of 15%, Canada is just now launching a $2 billion critical minerals sovereign fund. We aren't just late to the party. We're showing up to a party that ended 40 years ago with a pocket full of change. Act 4, The Refining Trap, Why We Sell Low and Buy High. Why does a country with the most freshwater, timber, and oil in the world have some of the highest costs of living? It's called the value-added gap. Canada is world-class at pulling things out of the ground. We are hewers of wood and drawers of water. But we suck at the next step. Take our oil. We export the vast majority of our heavy crude to the U.S., roughly 4 million barrels a day in 2025. Because we lack the refining capacity to handle our own heavy oil, we sell it at a discount. Then, we turn around and buy back refined gasoline and plastics at full retail price. We're selling the flour for pennies and buying the cake for dollars. Act 4, The Refining Trap, Why We Sell Low and Buy High. Why does a country with the most freshwater, timber, and oil in the world have some of the highest costs of living? It's called the value-added gap. Canada is world-class at pulling things out of the ground. We are hewers of wood and drawers of water. But we suck at the next step. Take our oil. We export the vast majority of our heavy crude to the U.S., roughly 4 million barrels a day in 2025. Because we lack the refining capacity to handle our own heavy oil, we sell it at a discount. Then, we turn around and buy back refined gasoline and plastics at full retail price. We're selling the flour for pennies and buying the cake for dollars. As of 2026, a new battle is being fought on Canadian soil. It's the race for critical minerals. The Canadian government has finally started to wake up. Between 2024 and 2026, Ottawa blocked multiple Chinese state-owned firms from buying Canadian mines, citing national security. But here is the catch: if we block foreign capital, who pays to build the mines? Building a single mine in the Arctic can cost $5 billion. Canadian banks are historically risk-averse. They'd rather lend money for a mortgage on a Toronto condo than a nickel mine in the Yukon. So, we're stuck in a loop. We need foreign money to unlock our wealth, but that foreign money ensures the wealth never actually stays here. Act 6, the 2026 pivot, can we fix it? Is there hope? For the first time in decades, the answer might be yes. In March 2026, at the PDAC convention, the government announced $3.6 billion in new programs to build an end-to-end value chain. That means mining it here, refining it here, and building the batteries here. But for this to work, Canada has to stop acting like a giant warehouse for the rest of the world and start acting like a CEO. We need to demand equity, not just royalties. Canada isn't a poor country. It's a rich country that's been poorly managed. We have the resources to solve the housing crisis, the healthcare crisis, and the climate crisis twice over. The question isn't what we have beneath our feet. It's who owns the boots walking on top of it. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, there's a lot more to the story of how global economics is reshaping our backyard. You can dive deeper into our Economic Sovereignty series by clicking the playlist on screen.